Hi everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can use Microsoft Excel to identify outliers in your sales data. And by outliers I mean a figure or figures which generally doesn't fit the norm for your business. Now that could mean, for example, on one particular day due to certain events you end up selling much more, or you end up selling much less than what you normally would sell. And of course folks, the period of a day is just arbitrary. It could be over a certain period in your business. The main thing is, it's not the norm for your business. As long as that condition exists, we can call it an outlier. So this is helpful for a couple of reasons. The first is, it enables you to investigate why that outlier occurred, and if it was under favorable terms, see if you can duplicate the scenario or event that led to that increase in sales. Secondly, the reverse could be applied. Let's say if your outlier meant that you sold much less for a particular period of time due to an event. You could look into what exactly caused that event. So let's say, for example, you experienced IT technical support problems for the customer service department, and that meant you got an increase in the number of customer complaints for a certain period. So in this case, the event is IT issues, which can be fixed, or you can take steps to minimize the issue. Now, how do you do this? Well, all you have to do is simply select your data and then generate a chart which will enable you to quickly spot the outlier or outliers. So in this case, I've got some sample dummy data, simply with the date and number of products sold. And we've got quite a lot of data here, folks. If I just scroll down, we've got about almost a year's worth of data. So let's see how we can get that outlier. Right, all you have to do is just select your data or select a particular cell in your data. Go to Insert, then head on over to this chart selection here, Insert Scatter, X, Y or Bubble Chart. Then simply click on it, and the chart you want is this one. Scatter. There. Now, all I'm going to do is just quickly expand it. Right. Okay, so let's take a look. Well, this scatter chart basically enables us to plot all our data items, in essence, as dots. And the good thing is, it enables any outliers to stand out. So you can see already that we do have two outliers here, which doesn't really fit the norm from our selection of data here. So just looking at our scatter chart, roughly the amount of product being sold per day is about 50 to 80 items worth. So anything below or above that by a significant margin is an outlier. And by significant, folks, that's down to your own judgment. If something is maybe one or two off from your typical range of the amount of product you sell, then that may not be considered an outlier just because it's so close to your data range. However, in the case of these two, for example, this item here, or for this day rather, the amount of product sold was 100, and for this one here, the amount of product sold was 95. Now, going on what we said earlier, that this hypothetical company sells about 50 to 80 items per day, these two we can safely say are outliers because they're fairly far off from the 80 mark. But you see, folks, this is how quickly we could identify these two outliers. Now, if you were to do this on your data, there are a couple of ways. For example, if you use the filter, you still have to scroll down through the list of data items. So what I mean by that is if I stick a filter here, you can see with our data items, you still would have to scroll down and determine from this what your range is and then what the outliers are. Now, while it isn't overly complex, the chart method I've just shown you is much more quicker. Another way you could get your outliers would be to sort your table by the smallest or largest value. However, again, this would involve some scrolling because let's say you sorted this smallest to largest. You would still have to scroll down all the way to the end of the table to get the largest number or numbers and determine if that's an outlier. And similarly, if you sorted this largest to smallest, it would be the same case. So while you've got your largest numbers, you would still have to scroll down to the end of the table to get your smallest and then make that assessment of whether the smallest and largest are outliers. So compared to the other two alternative measures, the scatter chart method shown here is much more visually easier in terms of enabling you to spot those outliers. I mean, really all we had to do, apart from when we generated the chart, was just to expand it so that we could get our date range to be a bit more clearer. But that was such a minor edit, it only took a few seconds, if that. Okay, so that's how you use Excel to spot outliers in your data quickly. And of course, the next step would be, once you've spotted those outliers, to investigate what caused those outliers. And again, as mentioned earlier on in the lecture, if it's a favorable event, then you would look into how can you recreate that event so that you could get the outlier again, but you could also do it in such a way that it's a view to boosting your sales to that level. So for example, let's say for this particular day, there was a promotional campaign. As a business, you could decide, okay, I'm going to run more promotional campaigns. So while you may get a few more outliers of that amount, for example, the overall trend would be to shift your sales to that amount on a regular basis. So in other words, you're averaging sales of roughly the 100 mark. So that's one of the great things about this method, folks. It doesn't just enable you to spot the outlier and take steps to try and recreate it if it's a favorable event. It also enables you to plan long term with a view to increasing your sales overall of your product. Okay, so that concludes this tutorial, folks. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you like these type of tutorials and videos, please do consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell. If you do have any questions or queries, please feel free to leave a comment below, and please do check out our Excel playlists if you are new to Excel and want to learn more from a beginner's point of view, or want to know more about charts, or overall you just need a refresher. Okay, so thank you for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Have a great day.